what kind of like preparation did you do? I mean, I know it was a short period of time.
Yeah.
But what were the things that you worked on?
I was lucky to have the database stuff in my back pocket kind of already, but I was like under the impression at the time that Java and JavaScript were like pretty similar things. And so somebody was like, no, they're not,
Common mistake.
Start to look into JavaScript. And I had applied for a small scholarship it was called Grow with Google. They partnered with Udacity to do these like little course modules. And I just applied for it. It was like a $200 course and they comped it for me. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do this course, and finish this to kind of get my teeth wet or my feet wet, sink my teeth into it. I just took 2 things and yeah.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. So that was my first exposure to HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And I got most of the way through the course and ended up actually finishing it while I was at Learn. But I would say probably 75% of that was done before I started.
Yeah.
And so I got like a little bit of exposure, but
Sure.
mostly with HTML and CSS.
Right, because you'd already had the database side of it.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me, like adding that front end part.
Totally. That was the world that I like needed to know that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But it was just like these 3 random things that I didn't yet really know. I mean, they connected on a web page for me.
Sure.
But it was just like, I write the HTML here, I write the colors here, and I do some effects with the JavaScript stuff. Yeah. So a very limited knowledge.
Sure. What would you say, what kind of advice would you give anyone for like prepping for coming into a boot camp?
That's a great question. I think as far as preparation goes, really anything helps. Like personally, if you were to get a decent understanding of JavaScript and like basic data structures, I think that you're kind of setting yourself in the right direction. Like knowing HTML and CSS is still really helpful. I mean, at that stage, it's just like drilling, right? It's like solving small problems. And so those online courses are great for prep because they take you through these like small problem iterations and you get a little bit of project knowledge along the way. So, I mean, online resources at that point.
Yeah, because it's a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
And that logic part of it.
Yeah.
I think I find if you can find those tools online or wherever that just get you started in thinking about solving problems in this way.
Yeah.
Is a great place to start.
Totally.
That sometimes, and we talk a lot about like we're constantly questioning, what languages we should be teaching.
Right.
But the language part isn't necessarily the most important part. The way you think and the way you learn is the most important part to us. And so I think that you're right, that like looking at that logic part.
It's something that seems very important when you're in it and like learning it, but then after you are in it for long enough, you realize that it's just, you look at one language and you look at another language. They may look kind of different, but they're doing the exact same thing. And you could pretty much do anything. Well, I mean, I can't say that, right? Anything with any language, but,
Right, but there is something too when you're first starting out, and we talk about this a lot when we're onboarding folks, that just start with one. Yeah. Right, that like there are very few developers out there that only write in one language.
Right.
For their entire career.
Totally.
And so you just have to start somewhere and get that basic foundation down.
Totally.
And that way of thinking down. And, I think that you can be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Resources like free code camp and those things, Udacity,
For sure.
super helpful.
Yeah.